Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Bo&Joe. I'm Bo.
I'm Joe.
And as always, our podcast runs off of very unusual principles and thoughts and conversations.
Yep.
So we decided we're going to randomize things a little bit.
Change it up.
So what we've done in the past is one of us always brings in a topic to the other, and then a discussion breaks out. Mm-hmm. And in this case, we wanted a conversation to happen about something neither of us saw coming. Mm-hmm. Without a third user or third talker, that would be very difficult to achieve. Yep. So what we've come up with is something, I have roots where back when I was young, I played Dungeons & Dragons, and they have this deck of cards in the game called the Deck of Many Things. It's a very strange and destructive but interesting tool. So what we've done is we've created a little bag here filled with a bunch of ideas, and we're going to call it the Bag of Many Things. Yeah. So our producer Maria is sitting here grinning. I know that she's wondering where we're going to go with this. So Joe, I'm going to give you the responsibility of pulling our first ever Bag of Many Things topic.
Okay. All right. Grab it.
So for the folks at home, you already know what this is about. We are about to find out.
Show me.
Drum roll.
Show me.
Parallel world.
Yes.
That's one of your ideas.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Parallel worlds.
Awesome.
I think you should lead us off.
Ah, shit. Okay. So what we do when we do this, we both write up ideas or things that we want to talk about. And when I said parallel worlds, I know that it's a bold or a big field, but I want to specifically talk about something that's called the many worlds theory. Okay. So in theoretical physics, there's an idea that is kind of very peculiar and interesting that talks about if you think of reality and the universe as singular, right? Then you can only imagine one thing, right? The expanding universe, the contracting universe, whatever it is you tie to, right? But then there was this thing when I was young, I started reading a bunch of weird science fiction novels, and long story short, I ended up reading about string theory in one of the science fiction books.
Very difficult thing to really grasp.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, man. It's very complicated. But then I stumbled upon a couple of authors, one particularly called Brian Greene, who brought it to what you and what we try to do to the the layman. He brought this concept into a much more understandable form, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And one of the things he talked about was superstring theory and M theory that talked about this idea of there being multiple worlds, and not just multiple worlds, but infinite amount of worlds. Sure. And to me, I mean, if you think about the basics of physics, right? You think about energy, information, the law of conservation of information we've talked about before. Yep. So what would happen, right, when Charles and Maria and everybody in the world, whomever they might be, cease to be? What happens to their energy? What happens to the information? You and I have a difference of opinion on that. Well, I mean, yeah, but long story short, right? You cannot disappear.
I mean, can't you?
No. It's against the laws of physics.
Is it?
Yeah. Law of conservation of information, man. You can't disappear.
See, this is where you and I disagree. I don't believe that the conservation of information is a thing.
Ah, shit.
It doesn't make sense. Again, we think logically, or at least we attempt to. Mm-hmm. The conservation of energy law says that energy or information is like energy; it cannot be destroyed. Mm-hmm. So I would say that if you want to exaggerate that, you could say that my cells are information, mm-hmm. and when I die, my cells return to the earth, and thus that information is not lost. But I think of it differently. I think of information as what I know. My emotions, my thoughts, my energy is all of that is different types of information. Okay. If I die, if you shot me in the face right now, everything I know, which is information, dies with me.
Does it?
It does. But see, it does. Once I'm dead.
Wait. So, has anybody ever talked to you about Jet Li?
I know is that he is Yula. So he is nobody's beach.
Have you ever watched a movie called The One?
No, never.
Oh my god.
Did you just hear what I said?
Oh my god. Yes. I'm sorry. But you know what I mean. Wow. So you know where I'm getting with this, right?
No, never.
Ah, shut up.
So I don't believe I don't subscribe to the many worlds theory.
At all?
At all.
Really?
Really.
Okay, so
I know that quantum physics is leaning that way.
Well, it's a theory.
It is a theory. It is a theory, but it doesn't... So, I'm okay with fantastic thoughts. You know, the thought that somewhere a black hole exists. Not only have we seen evidence of that, but I can envision a black hole being an amazingly frightening thing.
Okay, so...
But I'll get to it, I promise. But I can envision that. And I can envision that there are things out in space that I will never understand, never see, never be able to even comprehend. Yeah. But I can comprehend
parallel worlds.
The many worlds.
Okay.
And I don't think it's realistic. I don't think there's any... there's no... It's hard to say. What do you think as a thinking person when you look into a mirror? Yeah. Do you think that the mirror on the other side of the mirror is another existence, another world?
I don't. So, if anything, I think we have to talk about this in another podcast. I think that the more evidence that we look at, the more it looks like the simulation theory is probably the way to go. Okay. Does that mean that it's just one simulation? I don't think so. I do believe.
Okay, so I see where you're going with it.
So I do believe in the parallel world theory. I actually, out of all the different theories of physics that I've ever read, it's the one that to me that makes the most sense. And the reason I say that is, it's a very, very controversial topic, even amongst physicists themselves. I am not at all or claim to be any type of physicist. It's just a hobby. I like reading about this stuff, and I gotta say, out of everything that I've read, most of the people that talk about this get into trouble, because it's very controversial. With that said, thanks to a new technology and a new type of telescope, we're at the brink of having some experimental physics being done on this theory. There's one, and I hate the fact that I don't remember her name, but there's a specific physicist, I believe that I'm not trying to make a joke on that old podcast that we had, but I believe that she is English or Irish. Okay. But, or, I don't know. She's definitely European. For the life of me, I can't remember her name. She is one of these people that she's very much an advocate of the parallel world or the many worlds theory. And she has looked at, the background radiation image, which is
that shows like the age of
the oldest image that we could ever look at the universe, right? Which is just gamma radiation. It just looks like a bunch of green. Yeah. So the standard model of what we believe is the Big Bang, that states that energy was distributed in an equal amount, or at a
equal force.
Yeah. So in other words, we shouldn't see. We should see an equal distribution, and we should not see a differentiation between hot and cold. There are cold spots that have no what's that? Lisa Randall? No, that's not her. Okay. Thank you, Maria, though. But okay, that's not her. Anyways, long story short, this idea means that if the whole concept of the Big Bang was 100% the way we believe it to be, then energy and everything distributed from that single point equally. The problem is this image presents a different story. There's cold spots. What does these cold spots mean? So this lady, and again, sorry for not remembering, believes that these cold spots are evidence of other universes being created at the same time that our universe was created. So why? So you remember when we talked about originally in this topic, the M theory thing. So membrane.
M theory?
Yeah, M theory.
Like, the membrane. Okay, yeah. All right. So I've never heard it called membrane or M theory.
So the M theory stuff is there's these two interloping or they're very close together binded universes, and when one gets created, it bumps the other one. So just like that, if you imagine them as bubbles, same principle. When you get a bump of another universe being created, it would leave a mark, right? Especially something of that nature. And I'm being very, very extreme in my summation of this idea, but basically that's what she's stating. She's stating that cold spot is evidence of another universe being created. And now, thanks to a new technology and a new telescope that they're putting up into space right now as we speak, there will be experimental physics done for this, which is it's mind-boggling, because I do abide by the parallel world theory. I do believe that the many worlds theory is the best way of explaining it, because whenever you start talking about quantum mechanics, nobody really understands it. Even the physicists have hard times coping with it. There's a lot of stuff that's really complicated about it, but you know what's one thing that definitely makes sense? Mathematics, right? Mathematics is something that, like you said, logic. Mm-hmm. When you talk about math and you talk about some of these theories, particularly in the actual mathematics of it, almost the only way of actually proving some of this stuff is by having the many worlds theory in place. So when I say that, I mean string theory by itself doesn't work unless you concept in the many worlds theory. There's a lot of different theories in theoretical physics that need the many worlds theory to actually function. So that to me says there's a pattern. And if there's a pattern, there's probably a reason for it. So that's why I do believe that the many worlds theory is probably the closest we're going to ever get to kind of sort of maybe understanding the universe. Because I don't have it in my mind to understand the universe. But that doesn't mean that I can at least, entertain the idea of what could happen if I were to disappear. I know for a fact that if we abide by the laws of physics, and I believe we do, and we've gotten to the moon, and we could debate about it all day, but you know what I mean, we've gotten to space because of using the laws of physics.
Now, I'm not going to debate with you if we made it to the moon.
Okay, but you know what I mean, like we've achieved many great things because of abiding by the laws of physics. So that in and of itself is evidence to the fact that they, at least from what we can understand, work. So why would we say that law of conservation of information or the law of conservation of energy is wrong? So like you said, you die, you are made into something different, but you are not destroyed. Your energy, your information transformed to something else. But when you say thoughts, that's what I said. Really? Like, do you think your thoughts just die? Because to say that, and that's a very difficult question to ask and more to answer, but to say that borders more on belief than it does on actual physics, right? Because
absolutely.
For me, it's not a
it's not
religious.
A belief for you?
It's not a religious belief. No, for me, it's more if I try to garner or understand the idea of my thoughts. I'm very limited in my understanding of the brain. I'm very limited on the understanding of consciousness. But I can tell you one thing: when I think of that, in general, I will never ever say what happens after it, because for me, just understanding what's happening now is hard.
I don't think I understood what you just said. I'm with you. I am totally.
So what I'm trying to say is, mentally right now, if I try to understand consciousness, live consciousness, it's something very difficult.
As opposed to dead consciousness?
Exactly. Get my point?
No, there's no such thing.
So
you can't be conscious if you're dead.
Okay. So I'm not saying that you cannot be one thing or another. It's just that we don't even understand live consciousness very well. So how could you understand consciousness when you're physically not there? Yes. Okay. So let's go. Okay.
All right. I think you.
I went. Woo!
Woo! All right, folks. That's our show.
Let's go. Do you want to go to Sedona?
No.
Hey, man. Sedona's awesome. Sedona's awesome.
So here's the thing, right? I'm all about science. If science can show me their processes, even just their thought process. If I can follow your thought process, okay. I'm pro science. I'm also pro human. I think we should do whatever's good for humans, and I don't care what the implication is.
Yeah.
If let me explain what I mean to that for our listeners. I'm pro clone. Right. I want to say absolutely I'm pro cloning because I think you will fix so many damn issues that we have right now.
And stem cell research and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stem cell is amazing.
Yeah.
Who cares if they make other people? Do you care if somebody is cloned?
I don't know.
Think about it.
I don't want another Hitler, man.
I'm not talking about Hitler. I mean, that's everybody's first go-to is like, well, you create that there damn Hitler. No, dude, come on.
I'm just joking.
I know, but it's a valid point that I hate when people say that. Well, what about creating the assholes of the world? Yeah, but think about, that's one example.
You don't have to make the whole thing.
Not only that, but think about Joe, what if you develop a heart defect?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to have the technology to just clone you a fucking heart?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Like, it really pisses me off that we have so many different... I believe it's religiously inclined reasons for not doing cloning.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something 100% I admit right now.
Yeah.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
What do you mean? Like parallel worlds and stuff?
Okay, I know we're talking about parallel worlds, but here I am thinking about cloning.
But you were going to...
I was explaining science.
Right,
okay,
right.
All right. So, holy crap. I derailed myself.
You went into another universe, man.
I hate you. But my point is science, I am pro-science.
Yeah.
And I agree, quantum physics is probably the most difficult thing I've ever seen to try and learn or try to explain to somebody else.
Yeah.
The Parallel Worlds seems like a comic book to me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. There's no. I don't want to say there's no scientific basis because I'm not scientifically inclined to say that this is ludicrous.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say from a standard thought process, this is the shit you see in movies. You read in books. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel real to me.
Well, I mean, but you could say it about a lot of things.
Like what?
Okay, so like the idea that we live in a simulation, the idea that there's aliens, the idea that
I don't think aliens
we can fly.
are...
I mean, think about it. If
we can fly?
Yeah.
You mean
so
like
if
in a plane?
Yeah. So
that
if we
doesn't
go far,
seem unreal.
So I mean, exactly, not now, but if you go far back enough, it would have seemed fucking unreal.
Well, that's because they were thicker than we were.
But I mean,
this is fantastic, right? Somebody could come to me and say, Charles, someday we will have flying cars. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I mean, is it reasonable? Probably not, but I do see it being something that we could do. Charles, someday we will have cybernetics. Sign me the hell up right now.
Okay.
You know, Charles, someday we'll be able to infuse alligators with your DNA.
There you go.
And turn you into an allahuman.
A gator bow.
A gator bow. And you know what? I could believe it. That doesn't seem fantastic to me.
Okay.
Fantastic is a poor choice of word because it would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic.
I've always wanted to be half alligator. But my point is, it's feasible. Mm-hmm. This does not seem feasible to me.
All right, let's bring it down. What do you think of when I say a deja vu?
I'm sorry?
A deja vu.
Wow, I've never heard anybody say it so fast.
I'm sorry.
A deja vu.
So,
what the hell did he
so
just
deja
say,
vu, right? So what do you?
He's going crazy.
No. So what do you? When I say deja vu, what do you think of?
So deja vu is a sensitive subject for me. I'll tell you why. Science says that deja vu is a displacement between your vision and your brain. Mm-hmm. It's where one is firing, one is firing before the other one completes whatever cycle it's doing.
Okay.
And so your eye sees something, your brain registers it but doesn't process it, and then it processes it a few moments later and you feel like you've seen it twice.
Yeah.
So that's what science says deja vu is.
Yeah.
My personal experience is something totally different. Mm-hmm. I think we talked a little bit about it during the Akashic Record, which I think is bound really close to
absolutely
your thought process on this.
Yeah.
I am not a believer in the Akashic Record. Okay. And I'm also not a believer in anything spiritual. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in anything. This parallel world strikes me as very almost like magic. Okay. And I know we have said in the past that science, technology is like magic to an ignorant mind. I agree. Mm-hmm. But this just seems like straight out of a movie.
Okay, but so, you know, when we talk about deja vu, right? For most people, apart from the scientific explanation you just gave, thank you for that. But for most people, it's when you run into a situation, a feeling, just generally moment that you think you've lived before, right? So maybe this whole conversation that we're having right now from Maria or from whomever else that is in here would actually, they feel like they've gone through it already. So sometimes, and again, this is one of the, you remember when I told you about the book that I was reading? So they mention this is one of the cornerstones of explaining how it led to the parallel worlds theory and the many worlds theory, where whenever you were observing or having this feeling of having this conversation, it was an actual conversation that you did have. It just wasn't in this universe or reality. So, because the reason I say that is you've had those situations, right? It's actually, you've lived through situations where you actually have moments where you say, wow, I felt like I've talked about this before. Your family has, sure. People that you know have had them.
I would be more inclined to believe that I am psychic than I would be to believe that there are parallel worlds. Wow.
Okay. So if anything,
and you know what else I don't believe in? Mm-hmm. Psychics.
Okay. So if anything, what is the hardness of this pill that you can't swallow when it comes to at least garnering the thought of this being a possibility? Like, really, like, why do you have such a hard time to just even fathom the idea of this being possible?
So, I think the first thing is, I'm going to take it back to the woman you said, you can't remember her name, who said that there's dark spots in our galaxy. Yeah. Like, I would like to know... Cold spots. I would like to know why that was her theory and not that something some other... I understand you can't provide that.
Yeah.
But my thought process is, it seems arbitrary to look at that'd be like me looking at a map and saying, all right, there's no city on this part of the map. That's probably because that's where Hitler, retired to.
So, I mean...
Just pulling shit out of my ass, and I'm not saying she did that.
She did not do that.
But I would like to read her reasoning behind it, because right now it just seems too fantastic to make sense.
To be honest, it was a bad example, because I cannot bring the entirety of her argument to light right now. Okay. So absolutely disregard it completely, and I can research it later. We can talk about it more often.
All right,
but to be honest, it's not as superfluous as I just mentioned. It's much more granular, and there's a better understanding of why she's stating what she's stating.
Okay.
And it's granted in actual physics. It's just
fair.
To be honest, it's a very big. It's a large argument, and I don't have the concept of it completely in my mind to actually talk about it. Like we said, this is a surprise topic.
Yeah.
And for the past couple of weeks, I've been studying other stuff to talk about in our podcast.
I remember. So yeah, showing up with 22 pages for an hour long. Yeah. It's supposed to be a conversation. No.
Okay, but long story short, what I'm trying to get to in this is, in my mind, in my thought process, the first time I heard this, I thought the same exact thing you thought. I thought, this is stupid. This is fantastic. This is science fiction. But the more I read about how the theory works, the more I started, gathering the thought of, wow, maybe this is onto something. And the more I kept going down the rabbit hole of this idea of the many worlds theory, the more it made sense to me. And the reason I say that, it's not because of a belief. It's not because of being, fanatical about it. It's just because I did read a lot of these, of different theories that talked about how this helps in getting these theories to work. And when I saw that, I said, okay, so if I'm trying to resolve a problem, let's say a new way of transportation, or let's say a new energy, or whatever, something that helps mankind. And I'm trying to look at all these different theories and try and find a better way of doing it. And most of the time, when you're looking at all these theories, that's helping. Doesn't give it at least enough of a, not leaving leverage. Doesn't it even give it enough meaning to at least gather the information of whether or not it actually is worth anything?
So here's my take on this, and I'm going to use a metaphor that's going to seem outlandish, but I want you to side with me for a moment. I will say that I'm willing to have a conversation that this is a thing.
Yeah.
I just want you to know going in that I don't believe this.
Okay.
But I the whole point of our podcast is to open the mind, to listen to somebody's ideas and see if it, to learn more and see if maybe your opinion will change.
Okay.
So I'm open to the discussion. But in direct answer to your question, I'm going to answer it with another question. I want to have somebody be Black Panther.
Okay.
All right. I want him to be the Black Panther.
Yeah.
For that to work, the only way I can see that work is if we create a fantastic place in Africa with super technology we call Wakanda.
Yeah.
How feasible is that?
So if you believe in the many worlds theory, super duper feasible.
I'm not talking about the many worlds theory.
Yeah.
I'm talking about right now.
Right now?
I want Black Panther to, or that type of figure to
flip
be real.
A coin.
For what?
Flip a coin.
Why?
I'll explain. You have an amulet. Flip the amulet.
For what? I mean, no, explain to me what I'm doing, because it seems...
So, one of the theories that we were talking about, string theory, super string theory particularly, whenever there's a choice, in this case, flipping a coin, depending on whether the choice is heads or tails, whenever it drops down to heads, there's going to be another universe created that's tails.
Right.
What does that mean?
Trash.
No. In a long enough timeline, that means that you are going to get your Wakanda. Why? Because what that states is, in a long enough timeline, and we're talking about literally just a couple of flips of the coin, so you're going to have the extrapolation effect, which means...
So here's the problem.
Wait.
No, what you're saying is right, but you missed my point.
No. I mean, you're talking about...
My point was that I made some bullshit up to support my desire.
But here's the thing.
That's what this is.
But wait. Let's keep going with this bullshit.
Okay.
So, this idea of the many worlds theory, this idea of superstring theory, in particular, this idea of every choice that you make creates a separate, literally, a separate universe. So let's say, for example, you should flip a coin, it's heads, and then there's another universe created where it's tails. And then that means that we have to go outside and get some McDonald's. Whenever we go outside, there's a stop sign. We take the right. I say, let's take the left. It's faster. You take the right. There's another universe at that point that gets created that we take the left side. In that universe, we crash and we die. But then on the right one, there's a chain of events that keeps happening. Every choice that we make, every choice that she makes, every choice that every person on this earth makes creates a separate universe. So in other words, an infinite number of universes are created. In other words, at some point in time, you're going to find a Wakanda. You're going to find your Black Panther.
No, I understand how it works, but that doesn't strike you as like a flight of fancy?
Fantastic, yes. It's absolutely
doesn't
fantastic.
make any sense.
Well,
that's
okay.
like saying I want... again, we'll stick with the Black Panther theory. I want to be Black Panther.
Yeah.
I am neither black nor fit, nor do I have special powers. So that's me saying, you know what? I think there's a scientific explanation for why I'm not Black Panther, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm white, that I'm from the States, that I'm fat. It has to do with this strange thought process called the mini cellulite theory. Let's go with that.
Okay.
And
so you're trying to... Okay, I get what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
I feel like this was a placeholder and instead has grown out of control.
Wait,
the
really?
idea that every decision that you make and every decision you don't make and every decision you don't not make, do make, you can phrase that anyway, have not made,
right?
Then that creates an alternate reality. Makes no sense to me.
So let's look at the other side of this. For a lot of people, they believe string theory has failed. They believe superstring theory has failed. There's a E8 theory, which is the leading theory for the general
E8?
theory. So, oh my God, that's a very complicated theory.
Just
long story short,
paraphrase,
the person
I don't.
So the person that created the E8 or the lead
I don't
group,
care about the person.
so it's important to note. It's important to note because it's going to boil down to your argument.
All right.
He's totally and completely against string theory.
Okay.
He does not believe in what we're talking about. But in general, what the E8 or
Maria,
lead group,
can you look up E8 theory for us?
the lead group theory. So this guy has been basically utilizing modular functions and very difficult, complicated mathematics, found out a way of or predicting where subatomic particles that we don't know where they are reside in. It's being used by the people at CERN right now to actually predict where we could find subatomic particles that are at this point in time theoretical, and it's been used and it's actually worked pretty well. But so the reason I mention this is because we have to have the devil's argument, as it were, to this whole idea, right? So the devil's argument is all of this is wrong. And there's many different arguments in relation to how or why or how the universe would work. A lot of this stuff has been boiled down to try and get a unified theory of everything. So, we have the quantum...
Oh. So, I'm sorry to
Jared
interrupt.
Leasey. The guy is Jared Leasey. That's his name.
So, I'm reading here, the exceptional simple theory of everything was proposed by a physicist in 2007 and has just been discredited.
Jared Leasey?
No, this is...
That can't be the elite group or E8 theory.
Garrett Leasey.
Yeah.
In November of 2007, physicist Garrett Leasey published an online paper called An Exceptionally Simple Theory of Everything. Mm-hmm. There was another guy who came out. His name is Garibaldi.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that like chocolate? I don't know.
Ghirardelli?
Ghirardelli, yeah. Oops. But Garibaldi was a skeptic when the theory hit the news.
Yeah.
Then there was another guy named Dissler who was a particle physicist who disagreed with it. They collaborated. So Leasey's paper is known as E8. Yeah. And that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, elite groups.
But anyways, it has 248 dimensions and cannot be seen or even drawn in its complete form.
Right. Wait, stop. So yes,
I'm done.
That's what I was saying. It's a deep fucking rabbit hole, man.
Yeah.
So long story short, what I was trying to get to is there's many avenues, there's many schools of thought, but what do you have to say about the people that are spending their livelihoods on that theory? Because think about it, man. I get your point. The reason
that's not a fair question.
Well, I mean, it is a fair question because for you it's fantastical, right? But there's people in this world. There's many physicists that are literally spending their livelihoods trying to understand and trying to prove that it's a thing. Right?
Sure. So there are people who are spending their livelihoods making video games.
That's
there are
a
people
thing.
who are spending their livelihoods trying to be the best pimp a person can be.
But that's not the same thing. That's just,
but isn't it?
No, man, because we're talking about something that for you is fantastical, and I understand everybody's got their right to believe whatever they want to believe.
Sure.
But you have to at least give some credence to the fact that there's people that are literally spending their lives on trying to figure this out.
I would say that there's not a thing on Earth that doesn't have somebody dedicating their life to it.
Well, there's okay, but they don't get paid as well, or they don't have as many people actually doing it, or they're as intelligent as people doing it.
I think that's all.
I'm
relevant.
sorry, man. The people that are studying this crap they're not stupid.
Well, no, see, they're not stupid in the ways of physics.
Well,
but they might be stupid in the ways
of a bunch of other stuff. Yeah,
transportation.
But yeah, what I'm trying to say is the people that are doing this are, generally speaking, well educated.
Okay.
People that are well educated, you think they would be wasting their time.
So here's the thing. We spent the first half of this show with me saying I don't believe.
Yeah, we kind of like...
And
no,
it's important. It's important. I don't believe. But we've now established that I don't believe.
Yes.
For the next half of this show, let's pretend I believe.
Ah, shit. Okay.
And let's pretend that you... Well, I guess we don't have to pretend that you believe. But let's have a conversation between ourselves with the theory that we both agree.
Okay.
And I want our listeners to be able to listen to this conversation and say, well, you know what? I want them to be able to say that Bo said he doesn't agree with it.
Yeah.
And Joe said he does. They both stated their points. Now let's see. Let's give us reasons for why we should consider this. Mm-hmm. All right. You cool with that?
Yeah, I'm cool.
All right. So I now believe that this is a thing.
Yeah.
What are the implications? What are the benefits?
For me, the possibilities, apart from, and it's going to sound cheesy.
Quite literally endless.
Right.
Yes.
But not just endless, right? For me, the thing that makes this so interesting is if you gather the power of one universe, and then you gather the power of another, and then you gather the information of another, if you understand how to tap into that, you would literally become the most advanced civilization this universe has ever seen. So this seems fantastical,
Maybe.
right?
I mean,
or you could destroy yourself in the process.
Well,
for
think
sure.
about.
Right?
I look at it this way: since in this example, since we both believe that this is a thing, then there is an existence, a universe where other creatures exist, aliens, if you will, who have also figured this out, who are now more powerful than us, and that goes on and. I'm really, really struggling with this, being on this, because it seems like there's no point in having this conversation then.
Well, I mean,
because then everything is possible. There is no limit.
Well, I mean, okay, let's put some guardrails. So in this thought process, let's remove that from being so complicated. Let's look at stuff that we can actually at least tangibly understand thanks to modern popular culture.
Okay.
Like shadow people. You know, there's this thought.
There is the thought, yes.
There's this thought of people saying that shadow people are literally beings that have, like you said, maybe more advanced beings that have figured out a way.
I've heard that they're extra-dimensional.
Extra-dimensional, that have figured out ways of literally traveling throughout the universes.
Sure, I've heard that.
I mean, there's so many different things that you can think of that are just amazing science fiction books or movies, just in relation to this one topic. But the thing for me that really boils down to why I like this so much is the knowledge. Because if you think about this as just half of it being right, or not even that, just the idea of there being 2 universes, or just the idea of there being 4 or 5, not an infinite, just a couple. If you could tap into whatever the other universe's amount of information is, that just boggles my mind. Because if you're able to do that, you're able to not only leverage the knowledge that we've created or we've gathered to understand on our universe, but also something completely different or something at least half different in the other universe, the other side. Okay. So we'd have completely separate perspectives on the similar behavior of reality. And at the same time, we'd literally have a proof of concept on each side. And then maybe another order of magnitude, 10 more universes, then 10 more. You get what I mean? The advantages of it intellectually, man, we could travel at the speed of thought, for Christ's sakes. We could do things that we haven't even thought of yet. So to me, that's why I like it so much, man. And it might be because I read a lot of science fiction when I was a kid.
No, I was the same way.
So, but
I don't know. It seems to me like, from a conversational standpoint, everything you can imagine with the infinite worlds theory, everything you can imagine exists somewhere.
Yeah.
everything that I can imagine exists somewhere. Everything that I can go on and on.
Time travel.
So there's no need.
No, you can.
I mean, you can but at some point...
It solves the grandfather paradox. It solves it.
But...
It solves it, dude.
I don't know about that. But
it does. It solves it.
How does it solve it?
All right, so grandfather paradox, really quickly. If you figure out how to time travel, then that means that you could literally, I don't know why the hell you do this.
Okay, so
you could travel in time,
paraphrase,
kill your grandfather, and never ever be able to figure out how to time travel. That's the grandfather paradox.
See, the thing is you're correct, right? But you didn't give the additional information that time traveling would then be requiring, not on time travel, but on dimensional travel.
Wait, not dimensional, universe, right?
Universal, dimensional. It's the same thing technically.
But here's the point.
On one plane of existence, it is anyway.
Yeah. There you
see
go.
what I'm saying?
No, but what I'm trying
There's no way to be wrong here.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, like, in relation to the grandfather paradox theory, right? For example, you figure out how to do it. Only you, Bo, you figure it out. You understand how you could travel backwards in time. You figure out how you can actually do this whole endeavor, and you then decide, for whatever reason, go back in time and kill your grandfather, and therefore never be created. Then how the hell do you do it? It wouldn't be possible. That's why it's a paradox. But if when you travel backwards in time, you're technically only traveling back to another universe where you are obviously there, your grandfather is there, you kill your grandfather and you travel back to this timeline, and in this timeline you're still alive, then it's solved. You know what's also very thing that we haven't talked about? Quantum entanglement. The reason I say quantum entanglement is because there's actually been actual experimental physics that have been performed in the realm of teleportation, that it's important to talk about them, because one of the, and I think this is going to be very important specifically in terms of telecommunications, because there is a belief of this idea or concept being utilized as the next evolution of communications. So let me preface this with just like a higher level explanation. So quantum entanglement or teleportation, right? When you think of teleportation, it's easier if you boil it down to a fax. So you know how fax machines work, right? Like they just scan a document, right? They take that document, they break it down into ones and zeros into binary, and they send it over the wire, send it through a satellite, goes through their way, and then a printer prints it out. It recompiles it and prints it out, right? So the same way that works.
That is true of nearly everything, by the way.
Well, I mean, yeah. But I'm just trying to. It's a high level explanation.
It's an oversimplification. Yes, right. I understand.
So when we talk about teleportation, we have to gather the same amount of thought. We take something, we break it down into subatomic particles, and then we try and teleport it. So let's just talk about particles in this scenario. If you're trying to teleport a particle, you're going to destroy it, you're going to transfer it, and then you have to recreate it in some other part. So they've been able to do this in a lab, from one part of the laboratory to the other. In China recently, they were able to do it through a low Earth orbit satellite. And they gathered the ability to do this. Originally, they were having issues. You know what the issue was? Whenever they would transport it, it would go somewhere. But as far as they understood it, it would go somewhere that was not this reality. The thing that they were lacking was quantum entanglement. What is quantum entanglement? It's a way of literally anchoring the particle to this reality. So, and I know this is something that's complicated, but think about it, right? If you take one bit of whatever it is and you try and teleport it to somewhere, and it gets lost, and I'm not trying to oversimplify this. It's literally the only way they were able to do this correctly was quantum entangling it to this universe. And the only way you do that is you have to create both particles at the same time, so they're quantum entangled in this reality. And while you do that, then you can actually teleport it into the same place in the lab with it actually appearing there. So think about it. If that is not at least a breadcrumb of evidence to the idea of there being many realities, I don't know what is.
I won't argue that. I will say that I don't know enough about the subject to speak as an educated individual. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why I'm saying I don't believe it's because I'm not educated on it. But I will say that I agree. Your thought, the example you just gave, if that is accurate, yeah, that's a little weird. Okay, maybe that does give a little hint towards it.
So why would you? I mean, you know what I mean. Like, if you have to quantum entangle something, you get my meaning, to try and tie it to at least this known reality. In my mind, apart from every other crap that we were talking about, gets a little. It's for me. It's fantastic. I mean,
I agree.
not just fantastic, but man, like think about that.
No, I will say that again. I have to take your example on its face, right?
Yeah.
Because we're having a conversation.
I would not lie to you about this stuff.
You're not a liar. You're a very poor liar. So I know that about you. It's why playing those lying games, bluffing games, you're very crappy at it.
Yeah, I know.
But the point is when you say this, my thought process says, all right, why would you need to entangle it to our existence? Mm-hmm. If there was, that just says, right, maybe there's another existence. Maybe it went somewhere else. Mm-hmm. All right, I'll give you that. Yeah.
But isn't that interesting, though? Like,
it is pretty interesting.
The idea of having, and again, this is the reason why I say this, because when they were able to do this onto a satellite, the thing about it is they were able to do it multiple particles. So you know this better than I do, man. If you have multiple particles that you can teleport, that technically means you have ones and zeros that you're teleporting. So in a long enough timeline, and this is instantaneous, by the way.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why would I know that better than you?
Because you've been in the, I'm not gonna say, you know what I mean, telecommunications field longer than I have.
I see.
So that's what I mean. Like,
because I work with the internet.
Yes.
The internet is a bunch of tubes.
Yep. And ones and zeros. Particularly, I meant it because of the ones and zeros thing.
I understand now. Yeah. I was trying to see what you were getting at. This, whenever somebody asks me, how does the internet work, I always say,
tubes.
It's a system, a series of tubes.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And we're plumbers.
And, well, I mean, to some degree, that's true. But tubes works for people. You can explain to them. Yeah. Everybody knows how a tube works.
Oh, now we started with tubes.
What?
Many worlds in tubes, man.
Oh, tube theory? Is there a tube theory? I don't know.
You just made it.
Yes. There is a world somewhere where I am the smartest man alive for having created tube theory.
Tubes.
Yep. Tubes. But you heard it here, folks. The insanity is strong with this one.
So, if anything, man, if you believe in it, if not even believe in it, just gather the fantastic nature of what it could be. You could be anything you ever imagined, right? You could be a tree, you could be a house, you could be a man, you could be a woman, you could be a manticore. Hell, man, anything is possible, right? If you'd had your choice and you'd be able to entangle yourself to any reality, what would it be?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's easy. You know about my history with Dungeons & Dragons. I would rather be in a place where I can kill people with a big ass sword. I am not a violent person. You know that. I know. I'm not in this reality.
No, but I mean seriously, like, would you go to? Let's say you would go to the medieval world.
No, I wouldn't go to medieval. Okay. I would, because medieval is a time of suffering.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. Like I have no predilections about what the medieval times were.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is pure fantasy.
So you would go to a place where you can actually leverage the power of magic. Would you have dragons?
Absolutely.
Would you
absolutely.
have all the different types of, Tolkien world?
It's essentially, I think I've had discussions with this about a lot of different people, and while we are segueing just a little bit,
but it's important.
It is important. I want to say that there is the reason why I say that is because I feel like this world has very little mystery left in it that's not scientifically based. Mm-hmm. There, in all of our history, look at the last 2,000 years, 10,000 years of recorded history. Life was different because there was more to explore. There were so many things that were unknown. Mm-hmm. There's very little, unless you are a rocket scientist, and I use the term loosely again, there's nothing left to explore for laymen. I mean, there's the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, there's science and there's space. Those are three places that people like you and I will never get to explore.
I get your point.
Yeah.
For the common man, it's a difficult endeavor.
It is, right. And it's an unfortunate thing, and that's why I think a fantasy world would be great, because you'd be able to live out that desire to solve mysteries. And I don't mean mysteries like who done it. Yeah. I mean mysteries of like what's on the other side of that mountain.
Yeah.
GPS pretty much eliminated most of that for this world.
But I mean, I'm going back to the many worlds stuff. Like, so I think that's a very interesting question to ask people, because
I agree.
You could gather a lot from the answer. Like you are a person that by just saying that you
so what about you?
Oh shit.
Oh, you didn't see that coming, huh?
Okay, no, not really. I was gonna go into a very dark, deep, philosophical and psychological interpretation. Damn it!
Aha! You had a stroke.
Interpretation of what you were saying, and now I'm lost in thought.
Where would you go?
To be honest, your world sound awesome. I would
Really?
love that word, but at the same time, I don't think that's the one I would choose. I don't know.
So what would you choose?
I'm thinking. The long story short answer would be the thing that I would like the most would be the ability to travel the universe and study it.
No, I'm totally down with that too.
Like Star Trek type of world.
I mean, that's true. I didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. Like, I love the fantasy aspect of things, but I think you might actually be more correct. If I could go to the Star Trek world, I can get my fantasy fix from the holodeck.
Exactly. No, not just that. I mean, you could visit a world that has just that, right?
I mean, really?
Think about it. If the universe is
that is
your
pretty
playground,
much unlimited exploration, right?
You could get to a world that actually has some sort of embedded power where they leverage whatever.
So that's a better answer than mine.
That's the only. But that's I would have to actually sit down for a while and think about it. But the long story short answer would be, I cannot think of a world that's cooler than Star Trek.
No, I agree with that.
Because think about it, man. Money is worthless.
You're right.
You're doing right. Like the pursuit of happiness has become whatever you want to do.
So I want to point out one of the things we hope to do in this is to change maybe each other's mind. Mm-hmm. In a minor way, you have done that.
Oh, cool.
You have pointed out that I am wrong. No, that I was wrong in my initial assessment of what I wanted.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I mean,
and I think that's an important.
But, we could go down there and, have phasers and then still have the swords, You want to
have phaser swords?
No, I'm just saying, you remember Star Trek, man? They got into different places where they had to be like sort of kind of medieval, fantasy worlds and obviously. But anyways, long story short, that would be amazing, man. That would be
pretty cool. I didn't think about that.
And we could travel the universe.
But think about it, though. If you had... And perhaps we're getting a little off topic, but if you had the ability to travel to any reality, to any of the universes, like what's...
Oh, I got a better answer.
Why not go to a universe where you're godlike? Like,
no, I would not.
Q?
I would not be interested in that.
Why?
I would like a universe where I had all the answers, not be godlike.
Is there a difference?
That. I mean, depends on what you...
Omnipotent versus omnipotent?
I would not want to be omnipotent, man. That's too much of a responsibility. Of course it is, man.
You think Q was responsible from Star Trek?
I don't know.
Sucker punch.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, but wait. That's a very important question. Like,
is it?
I mean, not just him. I'm just talking.
You can be a lazy god.
No. But seriously though, like if I have a better answer would be. What I'd like to do if I had to be alive for a very long duration would be definitely go to the Star Trek universe and explore and have adventures. But if for the real answer would be if I could go to the universe that has, I wouldn't say all the answers, but the right questions with the right answers, that would be the best idea. Because then I could come back and fix whatever it is that's here. But, think about that.
Well, no. Here's the problem with that line of thought. And I think this is actually relevant to parallel worlds, so this is interesting.
Yeah.
The problem with that kind of thought is that when if there's a universe for everything, then you could literally put together anything you want. Somewhere there is a Star Trek-like universe where they are already gods.
Yeah.
And they travel because they're bored on the ship or whatever. There's any number... There's truly no limit to how absurd things can get.
You blew my mind right now.
How?
Because I thought about it, right? And if there is a situation where you were bored, that there's, I forgot the name of it, but there was an idea that talked about if you would gather the idea or thought of God, then God would be, I wouldn't say absentee landlord, but not cruel either, but had a very weird sense of humor. You know what I mean? Because of the things that happen in this world.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I mean, so...
What are you saying?
So what I mean is, when you said that, I'm like, you'd become bored.
You would become like bored if you could travel to any reality.
Right. So that just like a spark.
After a while, you truly... So you could go to Star Trek, where everybody's immortal.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everything.
Yeah.
And then there would be no need to come back.
Well, yeah,
because then you would know that this reality needs to exist the way it is for your reality to exist the way it is.
Or because you learned some other truth.
I think it just blew my own mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. But in my mind, it would explain some of the...
I have a headache. I don't really, but...
I mean, that's what's cool about the many worlds theory, though, man. Like, there's so many layers to it. I mean, seriously. Like, there's so much stuff that goes into just the concept of it, not even boiling down to the science of it, that just, it's mind-boggling stuff. But what you said blew me away in the sense that if you'd imagine a being or a set of beings that, let's say, have the ability to travel amongst different universes to the point where they surpass completely the necessary need of a physical body, or the necessary need of they completely eroded time as it stands. It gets to the point of, what are you doing then? Like, right? It boils down to like the science fiction comic book realm of literally playing God, right? And they would go to different universes and tweak this and tweak that just because they want to be entertained. They want to see what the outcome is. So in other words...
But aren't you doing that when you travel to a new
You
existence?
would, but I mean, I'm talking about a person or an entity that has gotten enough experience to be able to understand how he could reshape universes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, no, you're. I see where you're going, but it becomes a situation... I just had a thought, and this is completely off topic from what we were just discussing, but it's relevant to this.
Yeah.
How much storage space are we talking about it exists in reality? So
there's a limit.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a mental limit, and there's also, technically speaking, there is a limit. It's not infinite. So, to your mind, you mean?
No, I'm talking about there's infinite worlds, right? Mm-hmm. Where is all of this being stored?
Oh, man, that's a very big question. It's not about being stored, right? It's the fabric of the cosmos that you're talking about, right?
Let's go with that. So, if information can't be destroyed, you have infinite worlds, I want to know what kind of hard drive, and I'm using the term loosely.
Yeah.
What kind of hard drive are you storing this on?
Oh, man, that is a very deep question.
That is
and
ridiculous.
We have very little amount of time to cover that. That in and of itself is a very big podcast that we'd have, to be honest.
I mean,
I love the challenge for that.
I don't drink, but I'm not drunk enough for that conversation.
That is a great question, man. That is a very good question. And to be honest, philosophical, scientific, there's so many layers to that question, Charles. We have to talk about it, but I don't think we have enough time to cover that, to be honest. It's too deep. But one thing that I can say, though, there is a limit to the amount of knowledge that we can gather as humans with our conscious minds. As a universe, I don't know the answer to that.
That'd be an interesting thing for somebody to research.
Yeah.
If you believe that the parallel worlds are a thing.
But technically speaking...
What's the limit?
You could load balance it. You could keep making more worlds.
How? I mean, from a telecommunication standard, load balancing means one thing. From a galaxical, is that a word?
Well, I'm just saying, right? Like if you have a limit, let's say the limit is a petabyte per universe, then the only way of actually expanding it would be having more universes. So you almost reach the limit. Make a new universe. Leverage that universe. You almost reach that limit of a petabyte. Make another universe. Then you get what I mean? And then you keep doing that and keep doing it. So load balance it across a variety of universes. This is way too complicated, man.
Well,
wait. So I know that we have very little time, but
we've got about 6 minutes. So
hey, in this universe,
I just want to let the listeners know I'm gonna go hang myself after this conversation.
Come on, man.
It's been nice knowing you. I'm not really going to do that, so. But go ahead.
Damn it!
Kill me for the next 6 minutes.
I'm not gonna kill you, man. I mean, seriously though, I really enjoyed the thought process about this because it kind of demonstrates different aspects of the way we think. You know, and specifically with things that we want. Like when you ask somebody if there is this ability of traveling to many worlds and there is an ability of you becoming something different or you being in a different scenario, that says a lot about what you really want in life. You know what I mean? The idea or the question better of actually asking somebody if this were a thing and there were, you know, to your heart's content, all the fantasy worlds you can even think of, which one would you pick? I'm guessing some people would pick what you said, worlds where they could be gods. Like the old gods, right?
Sure.
I'm sure you and you could gather
I think
a lot
that's
about
born
people.
Mostly of struggle, though.
But you know what I mean? It's an interesting question to ask.
You can only be poor and downtrodden so long. And somebody says, "Hey, would you like to be a god?"
But I'm not just
Ghostbusters has taught us that lesson.
I think we've had this conversation with some of our friends in the past and long past, and some of them have said very peculiar or colorful answers to this type of thing.
Yes, I know exactly what you're referring to. Yes, we have a particular friend of ours who indicated that he would be like the dictator of the universe, and he would have you know what?
Don't say it. No.
It's not worth going on. Let's just say it was extremely graphic.
Yeah, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it says a lot about a person's way of thought, you know.
So what would you think about his way of thought?
I would think that person should seek some type of help.
So, all right, I'm curious. My initial standpoint of the fantasy realm.
I think that
What does that say about me?
You're a seeker.
Of...
You said it yourself.
Swords?
No. You're a seeker of
Dragons?
adventure, man.
Oh, adventure, yes.
You said
Yes.
there's very little in life that can...
Adventure is a good choice word. That's... there's different kinds of adventure.
Yeah.
You know, you can go to an adventure park now. You can go to a safari.
Thrills. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do things like that. And I don't consider those adventure. Not in the sense of what I was referring to.
So let me rephrase it. Seeker of meaning. But meaning in the sense for you, adventure. Adventure would give you more meaning.
Okay. I think I'd buy that. I think.
Well, I mean, that's what I would gather from your answer. But it's a good question to ask people.
It is.
Because you could tell a lot about a person's answer at that.
No, I agree.
You know, I personally, man, I'd be interested to think what the listeners would have to say in their own remarks. What universe would they visit if they would have the chance?
No, it's an interesting thing that we talk about sometimes.
I mean, I would just rather just the idea of all the different people, you know, what universes they could come up with, right?
So here's a thing for our listeners, and I'm sure you know this already. Quantum computing is already using this as a structural belief. The guys at what's the name of that company?
D-Wave
have indicated that their processor actually takes cycles, if you will, leverages other universes to make itself faster. Do you think that's accurate?
I don't know.
Try and as quick as a response as you can.
As quickly as I can. So I know that it does. It utilizes your super precision in order to create. It utilizes a thing called a quantum bit, right? And quantum bits, you know how bits work. They're either ones or zeros. Quantum bits can be both at the same time. That means it could do a 0 and a 1 depending on what you need it to be. So yes, I guess it makes sense in the sense that it could actually theoretically leverage another universe to do that. So what the guy was saying, I think you referred to that really cool conversation that he was talking, the actual CEO, founder of D-Wave. He was talking about how it was able to leverage another universe to process something. That's an amazing thought. I don't know enough to really answer that, man. But as far as it goes, it's probably possible. And it kind of correlates to what we were originally saying in the first bit of the podcast when we were talking about, you know, the ability to utilize another universe to, you know, get more information. But I don't know, man. I mean, I really can't answer that. I don't know enough about quantum computing.
Yes or no? Is it possible to meet yourself from another universe?
That'd be weird. Probably.
So yes?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, there's at least a reality where you do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you believe that.
I would probably punch myself if it was a younger version of me.
Why younger?
Be stupid.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I would punch a different version of you.
That's great.
Totally kidding.
No, you're not. You're super not kidding, man. No, I would definitely punch myself in a younger time. Be like, stop being so stupid, Joe.
Well, we have come to the bottom of our hour again. Is there anything you want to add?
I would love to know what the listeners would say their universe of choice would be.
That's a great question. Leave us a comment. Let us know what is if you could have reality be anything you want it to be, what would it be?
Yeah.
That's a great ender. We're curious to see what you guys want.
Oh, yeah.
Feel free to send us any suggestions you have at Bo&Joe podcast@gmail.com, or you can leave them in the comments below. And but maybe we'll throw them into our bag of many things, or maybe we'll plan it out and have an in-depth conversation.
We won't judge, I promise.
No, I mean, maybe a little, depending on what it is. But in either case, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening to us. I'm Bo.
I'm Joe.
And we'll see you next time.